The following is dialogue from Dracula, the Broadway play.
The devil. Not as bad as that.
I did not hear you, Count.
I am often told I have a light footstep.
I was looking in the mirror. Its reflection covers the whole room, but I do not see you.
Forgive me. I dislike mirrors. They are the playthings of man's vanity.
Hi, I'm Bobby, and using the DVD scene selection, I am doing a scene-by-scene review of my favorite movie, the 1931 version of Dracula. Tonight, we are on Scene 12, Dracula Revealed. In this scene, Professor Van Helsing meets Count Dracula, and when he happens to glance at a small mirror inside a cigarette box, he sees that Dracula casts no reflection in the mirror, and that he must be the vampire that has been preying upon Miss Mina. In folklore, mirrors were believed to show one's spiritual double, in other words, our soul. J. Gordon Melton speculates that Bram Stoker's idea was that the vampire casts no reflection in the mirror because a vampire has no soul. In the book, Jonathan Harker is shaving and using a small mirror, and becomes startled and cuts himself when he feels Dracula's hand on his shoulder but didn't see his reflection.
This time there could be no error, for the man was standing close to me. I could see him over my shoulder, but there was no reflection of him in the mirror.
Take care how you cut yourself. It is more dangerous than you think. And this wretched thing that has done the mischief, it is a foul bauble of man's vanity. Away with it!
The movie and Broadway play are set up more like drawing room mysteries, and the mirror is an essential clue in Van Helsing discovering Dracula's secret. On the DVD, Scene 12 begins in the middle of the conversation of the two marks on Mina's neck, as the maid announces Count Dracula.
What could have caused them, Professor?
Count Dracula.
Nothing like biting humor. Part of Dracula's personality is his arrogance, and he'll say things with double meanings, like, I never drink wine, knowing the pathetic mortal will never catch on. And this joke operates on the same level. So stylistically, this is a really clever way to introduce Dracula into the scene. We quickly see Dracula's relationship with each of the four main characters. Dr. Seward has been totally fooled by this charming count, and has welcomed Dracula into his home. When Mina sees him, her heart is pounding, as if she's both terrified of Dracula, but also excited and aroused by his presence. On the surface, Dracula seems in love with Mina, but he's the demon lover, and you could tell by the tones of their voices that she is under his spell. John Harker sees Dracula as a romantic rival for his fiancée. He's jealous and dislikes him, and Dracula arrogantly sees Harker as nothing but a pathetic mortal and even smirks at him. However, most fascinating to me is the dynamic between Count Dracula and his arch-nemesis, Professor Van Helsing. When they meet, Dracula says with an oily smile that he has already heard of Van Helsing. And by the way Van Helsing quietly studies the Count, you get the impression that he has also heard of Dracula.
It's good to see you back again, Doctor. I heard you have just arrived. And you, Miss Mina, you are looking exceptionally... Pardon me, Dr. Seward, but I think Miss Mina should go to her room at once.
Excuse me, Count Dracula, Professor Van Helsing.
Van Helsing, a most distinguished scientist, whose name we know even in the wilds of Transylvania.
I had a frightful dream a few nights ago, and I don't seem to be able to get it out of my mind.
I hope you haven't taken my stories too seriously.
Stories?
Yes. In my humble efforts to amuse your fiancée, Mr. Harker, I was telling her some rather Grim tales of my far-off country.
I can imagine.
Why, John?
I can quite understand Mr. Harker's concern.
I'm afraid it's quite serious. My dear, I'm sure Count Dracula will excuse you. You must go to your room as Professor Van Helsing suggests.
You had better do as your father advises.
Very well. Good night, John.
Miss Mina, may I call later and inquire how you are feeling?
Why, yes. Thank you. Part of the criticism of the movie is that it's too much like the play. And there is merit to this. Most of the rest of the movie will take place in the single setting of Dr. Seward's library, and it will be talky. However, if you read the play's script, you'll see that the movie does try to make it more exciting. In the play, Van Helsing meets Dracula, and then in a later scene discovers Dracula's secret. Whereas here it happens all at once. And in the play, Van Helsing is looking at a large mirror at the beginning of the scene, where it's obvious that Dracula casts no reflection. Whereas in the movie, he happens to see the mirror inside the cigarette box, and like a scientist, checks and double checks, creating suspense, before doing the final test. The original theatrical trailer contains alternative takes not used in the film, and it includes a portion of Edward Van Sloan's screen tests, where he recites dialogue from the play.
I was looking in the mirror. Its reflection covers the whole room. But I cannot see you.
This is how he does it in the movie.
A moment ago, I stumbled upon a most amazing phenomenon. Something so incredible, I mistrust my own judgment. Look.
Todd Browning worked with him to tone down his performance, and it does seem like he was more exciting in the play. However, I do think he sounds more sure of himself in the movie.
I am sorry, Dr. Seward. My visit was so ill-timed.
On the contrary, it may prove most enlightening. In fact, before you go, you can be of definite service.
Anything I can do, gladly.
A moment ago, I stumbled upon an amazing phenomena. Something so incredible, I mistrust my own judgment. Look.
Dr. Seward, my humble apologies. I dislike mirrors. Van Helsing will explain. For one who has not lived even a single lifetime, you're a wise man, Van Helsing.
Bela's fourth wife, Lillian, welcome to Hollywood, baby, told the historian Gregory Mank, "I wish you could have seen him do Dracula on stage. He was like a great animal, but you didn't pull his whiskers because he could pounce at any minute." This moment is where he pounces. When he sees the mirror, it is a momentary loss of self-control. He is furious, and you see it in his eyes that he wants to kill Van Helsing. He quickly regains his self-composure, and before he exits, he says another classic Dracula line, "You're a wise man, Van Helsing." Respecting your enemies means you don't underestimate them. The movie doesn't go into it, but for many it is understood that Count Dracula is Vlad the Impaler, and this is the warrior aspect of his personality. What on earth caused that? Did you see the look on his face? Like a wild animal. Wild animal, like a madman. What's that? Running across the lawn. It looks like a huge dog.
Or a wolf?
Wolf? To escape this hairy situation, Dracula turns into a wolf. This is done completely off camera. We don't see any transformation effect or even footage of a wolf, and it adds more fuel to the Dracula is too stagey fire. But in this instance, I actually like this just implied. Having just seen the beast in Dracula, we can imagine him becoming one. After he exits, Professor Van Helsing explains the incredible phenomenons that we have just witnessed.
Sometimes they take the forms of wolves, but generally of bats.
What are you talking about?
Dracula.
But what's Dracula got to do with wolves and bats?
Dracula is a vampire. A vampire casts no reflection in the glass. That is why Dracula smashed the mirror.
I don't mean to be rude, but that's the sort of thing I'd expect one of the patients here to say.
Yes, and that is what your English doctors would say. Your police. The strength of the vampire is people will not believe in him.
In any other vampire story, John Harker's and Dr. Seward's responses would sound ridiculous. But this is the first American vampire movie. This is new information for them and for the audience. And I love that naive quality. The scene ends with Professor Van Helsing saying the strength of the vampire is that people will not believe in him. And there we have the reason why he left Transylvania. In his homeland, everyone knew he was a vampire, so homes were barred with crosses and wolfsbane and other petty annoyances. Whereas in England, his prey is unsuspecting. Yes, this scene does feel like a play, but it's well written, well acted, and Todd Browning does a great job at filming it. There are two interactions between Bela Lugosi and Edward Van Sloan in the movie, and both are so tense, because both actors radiate inner strength and confidence. Some people believe that Universal's Spanish version of Dracula is superior to the Lugosi version. Everyone is entitled to their opinion, but I think they're totally batty. In the Spanish version, Carlos Villalobos looks afraid of the mirror, thinks about it first, and then smashes it. He's more unintentionally funny, whereas with Bela Lugosi, you just feel that inner rage. Professor Van Helsing knows that Dracula is a vampire, but will he be able to save Mina? Find out next time in Chapter 13, Lure of the Vampire.